morning, everyone. It's Melissa with Build a Better Bakery again, here to make sure you have a great day learning about baking business, getting some information about time management, which I know is really important. Sorry about that. I know it's really important to a lot of people to get some time management skills set up. So let's talk about that today. All right. Let me double check. Yes, we are good to go. Love it. Okay, I should be able to see comments today in the group. So if you're here with me, our hashtag Thursday Fave session on Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time every Thursday. You can throw up your hashtag replay if you're viewing on the replay. You can throw up hashtag live if you're viewing on the live. I'm Melissa Fryer with Build a Better Bakery. I'm the founder, the CEO there, one of the main mentors. And just in general, if you're interested in finding out more information about baking business, or if you're already baking and you want to find some more joy, less stress and overwhelm with how you're currently dealing with your baking business or growing your business, then we should hang out more. Like I said, I'm here every Thursday to make that possible for those in the group. And I also share this information via our email with update links and replay links, and also on YouTube sometimes as well. So there's a lot of places to get these videos if you can't be here live, but if you are here live, then you get to ask me questions and we get to discuss what's going on. So if a topic is ringing true to you, try to get here live if you can, and we can talk about it together. All right, the theme for March here in the Bakery Business School is Cultivating the Dream. So every time I come in here each week, we're kind of talking about something that goes along with that topic. And one aspect of baking business that I often get asked about early on is, quote, how much time does this actually take? Or, quote, do I even have time to do this? Or, quote, how can I better manage my time while I'm working? So this all just kind of rounds out to understanding how time expectations work in baking business. What are some things that you can look forward to as far as how much time is actually being invested? Do you have time to do this? That's going to be kind of how much time do you, how much free time do you already have, or how much time can you free up in your daily life to work this in? And then, of course, managing your time, I want to touch on that as well. And this is usually for those thinking of starting out, who have already started and are maybe feeling kind of overwhelmed with the time that they are already investing. I know that's plenty of us here in the group. So today I want to break down some time estimations for what a typical order or day might look like for you, just to give you kind of an idea of what it entails. And also touch on a few time saving tips that I've used over the last 16 years to maximize the profits every day I'm working, to make sure that I am not wasting any time and I'm using my time efficiently. So the session is going to be full of a lot of good tips to help you better understand baking business from a time management standpoint. So stick around if you want to hear about that. Now, if you want to stay in the know, you can check the events here in the group. I post a couple days before about our topic. You can send me a friend request on the Facebook platform. I have a public account, so you can send that. If we are friends on Facebook and you are here in the Bakery Business School Facebook group, I can invite you as the events are made, but that is the only way because the group is too big to do individual invites. So if you want the lives, that's how you get invited. If you want to hang out on the email list, I send out replays every couple of weeks. And I also post to YouTube once in a while, usually every time if I have a recording, I'll put it up there as well. So those are the two places that you can look otherwise. Okay. Now, to get into this subject, I wanted to start off with an example for time estimation, right? I get the question of how much is this business or this job going to actually take up of my life? And I wanted to give you an estimation for a cake order simply because that's my training. I've done it forever. It feels like forever. So I'm just going to give you a regular day of baking for covering one order, just because it's, easy for me to think about cake. But if you have a different type of product, or you're kind of curious what different other setups might entail, you can comment here in the video. We can talk about difference in estimation of time. I will give you a general estimation after this example. All right. Number one, about an hour of customer interaction and research. This time is usually something that we all spend doing. We all spend time talking to people on the phone, via Messenger, etc. Every time you open that app and start talking to somebody, you're working. So even though it might feel fun and like they're maybe your friend and you're talking to them, you're still kind of putting on your business hat, right? You're still being your business. So we have to start considering that as part of being paid, because you could spend hours and hours talking to someone about an order. And then, you know, that has to be accounted for. You can't do other things when you're writing out an order form or you're discussing topics, right? And then also research. So looking up reference images, finding logos online that you need to replicate from such and such business. They're trying to get you to make them cookies or something, or, you know, looking up color palettes or looking up designs, right? Like these, it just takes time. So about an hour of that. And this is per order. Okay. I'm just going to break it down into one order. And then we're going to account for an hour to shop for products online and in person. That's going to be all of your, you know, restaurant wear shopping, all of your Amazon shopping, all of your grocery store shopping, all of your hardware shopping, anything that you're doing. And I put this in here as an hour per order. Usually, I mean, I don't do this for every order. It's usually a couple times a week or once a week. I'll do kind of a bulk thing. I keep a list. So you can save some time on that, but estimation about an hour. And then we have about 30 minutes to prep your kitchen area. That's commercial or home. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but if you clean them at the end of the night, it doesn't take as long to get started in the morning. So if all the dishes are done, everything's wiped down and sanitized, you can just roll right into it. But if that's something that you do in the morning, then that likely might be more time. We have about an hour to mix and bake a product. This is a very simple estimation. There's a wide range. If you're going to do a highly intensive product like, you know, multi-layered pastries and things that take a lot more physical labor and time, you're going to need to adjust that. But just to say, you know, about 20 minutes to mix something up, about 40 minutes in the oven, right? Okay, we got our hour. And then about an hour to make icings and apply base coats. Again, this is a cake example. So usually I make the icing when the cake is baking. So I'm kind of, we'll talk about multitasking, kind of doubling up on that so I can make more money per hour as I'm charging hourly. Or if you have a base price, you're making more money with less time. But about an hour to apply the base coats, whatever it is that you're doing. And then I estimated 1 to 4 hours to do the decor. We all know that this varies. It's a very specific to what you're doing. So I think estimating about 1 to 4 hours is probably a healthy amount of time to consider that you might be spending. And then we have 30 minutes to package and label. We can't forget that, again, we still have our work hat on. We're still trying to get this stuff. We're still trying to get the photos. We're still trying to get a clean package put together. We're printing out our labels, all that. That's still work. And then we have to clean up and we have to charge for that because we're working for someone else. So I put in 30 minutes to clean the kitchen area, but again, that can take longer depending. So my final estimation for really, there's also extra things. So that's kind of like working on that one thing. But then we also need to realize that you're going to be spending likely 3 to 5 hours per week marketing, taking photos, posting on social, sending emails, making menus, any of that. At least probably 2 hours or more of deep cleaning per week, which aren't included in that hour, you know, setup and cleanup. A couple more hours per week organizing your business aspects, your workspaces, just making sure that things are where they need to be. That takes time. And then just more time based on your needs. So it can really add up when we're talking about the physical labor of baking business. As a full-on estimate, you can estimate that you'll need at least 5 to 8 hours per order. Okay, so 5 to 8 hours per order. So if one person places an order with you, you know that during that week, you're going to be spending 5 to 8 hours total on that person's order. This time can be built into multitasking though. So that's how you can take more orders with that period of time. It will lengthen because there's extra things you have to do for the next order. But if you can multitask on some of those events that we talked about, that we broke down, you can create more orders without having to say 8 hours plus 8 hours plus 8 hours, right? Because you can kind of double up on tasks. But that's kind of the base to start with. So if you want to ask yourself, do I have enough time in my week to start taking orders, just to know that you might be saying, you know, if you want to take 3 orders a week, let's just estimate that out as 5. That's 5 is very low. That's 15 hours. more probably like 20, 25 hours to get those 3 items start to finish completed and everything else that needs to be done for the business during that week. So it is kind of a part-time job, right? We have to imagine that it's going to take, this isn't one of those baking shows that cut out all the work and just show you like the 10 minutes, right? It takes a long time to do a lot of this stuff. All right. And then lastly, I just want to put a little in here because I've seen, and I don't know if I'm just like a different type of person or if I've just been doing this too long and I just can't ignore it anymore. I don't know. And I want to preface this with y'all do what you want. Okay. Like I'm not making you and do anything. I'm not telling you that you're wrong, but I do want to say that you should not be feeling bad for charging for your bake time. I see a lot of people say, well, I don't want to charge for bake time because I'm not doing anything. Here's the thing. Likely you are. You're probably cleaning. You're probably prepping more for the order. You're probably doing other things in your kitchen. I doubt you're just standing there staring at the oven. And even if you decide to stand there and stare at the oven and take a little break, which is perfectly fine, and that is okay, you cannot leave the house, right? Like you have to stay there to retrieve the item when it's done. So it's not a task that you can just, it's not like letting bread rise where you can just leave the house and do whatever you want. That's a little different. But when we're talking about charging for an amount of time, please charge for the amount of time that you're baking because you're doing yourself a disservice in my eyes if you don't, right? You're basically giving your time away for free in that respect. So just a little thing I want to put in there. Okay. That's interesting, right? Estimation. If you guys have other ideas of how you feel this is working for you, if you feel like you're spending a lot more time on one of those things, let us know in the comments. If you feel like I missed something really huge that you feel like you spend a lot of time on, put it in the comments so we can add that to the discussion. Now, the suggestions that I want to make to you for making your time more profitable, it's going to be different for everyone because we all make different things, we have different lifestyles. If this could help you create better time management by helping you stack your tasks to save time on the long run. You might not like some of these ideas, and that's okay. These are things that I have chosen to do and the way that I want to present myself in my business so that I can still have a life. And that's just what works for me after the 16 years of kind of trial and error, the situations that have worked or haven't worked when I'm trying to create time management routines for myself. And it allows me to make enough that I'm actually bringing home a paycheck I can be proud of, right? So I'm not just breaking even. I'm not, ending up with $0, like $0 at the end of the year for taxes, right? Like we're good. I'm profitable. So for me, this is working. But if you have other ideas, if you, if there's just something about this that you really don't like, you do not have to do it. Okay. Just going to lay them out. Number one, this is the one that people feel a little uncomfortable with. And I think it's more of a money mindset issue, but I'll lay it out. I suggest that you have a minimum order that is equivalent to enough to get you up off the couch. If you were in your undies, eating chips, watching your favorite movie, how much money would someone have to give you to get you up off the couch to turn the oven on, right? Like how much is that? That's what I suggest your minimum is, because at some point that's going to be the situation. And I want you to feel good about taking these orders. I don't want you to feel burnt out. I don't want your family to lose out. I want them to recoup that via some funds to go have fun later, right? So for me right now, in my current life situation, in my current tiny little community, in my current motherhood season, that minimum is $200. That's just where I'm at. For others, it might be less. It might be more for you. In any respect, as long as it feels like this is enough to get me up off that couch, then I think you're in the right spot. I bake every week. So getting ready to work on an order, fitting it into my calendar, that's not a big problem, right? If it was a bigger problem for me to do that, like if I had tiny babies, if I worked another job, my minimum might be higher, right? Because I'm starting to sacrifice things at that point. So again, just pick the one that feels right to you, but please have a minimum, some kind of minimum, okay? Number two, create a menu that is small enough, doesn't have to be super tiny, but small enough that you're able to maximize your time by making similar items during sessions. What I mean by that is if you have a menu that's got like a million different things on it, that's a lot of changing gears. That's a lot of different materials to buy. It takes up a lot of brain space. So offering too many different things can make it so that your orders that are coming in are so different that you're not able to stack your tasks. And if you can't stack any tasks, then that's a lot of time, right? You want to be able to stack some tasks. So an example would be having products that need to be sanitized between every recipe. So let's say that you have regular recipes and you have gluten-free recipes. If you started with a regular recipe and then you went to a gluten-free recipe, you'd have to do a sanitation round, right, to get to the gluten-free. So just not saying you shouldn't sell those kinds of things, but think about how you're placing that into your bake day. Plan your delicate or allergen-based recipes always first in line so that you can skip that step so you don't have to worry about all of the changing gears on sanitation. You just want to try to make sure that you are making it easier on yourself rather than a bunch of different things kind of smashed together. All right, number 3, have days dedicated to certain things. No, that sounds pretty simple. I found it difficult to create a routine that I can stick to. So I'm going to lay out what that is now. Again, it's going to be different for everybody. They're likely going to be different for every single person, but I just want to give you kind of a vibe on what works for me. I have something that's kind of like a Cyber Monday. So I do online work. I try to situate email and I try to get all that, squared away. I do shopping. So that includes online ordering and in-person shopping that need to get done. On Tuesdays, I do my cookie baking. So I have those different products on my menu that can be stacked, and I bake different cookies in a line from, and I'll cover this in a moment, from basically least flavorful to most flavorful. So I don't have to do any kind of changing gears. And I also like to flood cookies on that day so that they can dry for decorations later in the week. On Wednesday, I do different like cookie bar, bar tray bake type things and any deliveries I have to do. On Thursdays, I usually bake cake if I'm baking cake for the week. On Fridays, and I'm here with you on Thursdays. On Fridays, I do extra cleanup, make marketing materials, extra promo, stuff like that to move people into the weekend. So creating emails, all that. Okay. And then if you want to work on the weekends, cool. If you don't, take the time. All right, number 4. This is just a shopping thing. I don't know where you guys are with that. I don't know how you like to shop. For home and business in one trip, it can be done. I think for me, what really made it a lot easier was separating my lists of what I need onto 2 different colored pieces of paper. I just get those little note cards. That just keeps my mind, like what I've done before, if I didn't do that, I have eggs written down and I'll buy some eggs. But then when I get home, I realize, oh, those eggs were supposed to be for my business, not my home. And I didn't buy enough and I have to go back and it's confusing. So I have the 2 different colored papers with the lists, and then I have business bank account. So when I get up to pay, I tell her I have 2 different transactions. I put one down first, separate it, use one card, the next section down second, pay for that business, right? And I keep all the receipts. I got all that. I don't get rid of those. I use Fetch to get money back. I make sure they're filed away, keep them for taxes, all kind of stuff. So it just saves on tax or on gas, and might take more time to like prep the lists and actually deal with the transaction. But for me, it saved lots of trips. So that's what I do with that one. Number 5, to save time on shopping, we can kind of get sucked into a time hole when we're comparing products and all of that. So I think having go-to vendors is important, just certain places that you go to try to get the same products every time if you're happy with them. Definitely like check on pricing and things every couple months, but it's wastes so much time to try to like look through different products. So if you're happy with the vendor, if you're happy with the product, just stick with it. Do price checks a couple times a year or something like that. If you have a list of recommendations for products, that's a really good thing to have on hand. Let me know if you need the one I have. I have a really long Amazon linked list that you can look through that covers, lots of different aspects, tools, bakery furniture, farmers market stuff, like all that. So if you want that list, it's free. You can have it on hand. You can look through the different brands that I like, stuff like that. Okay, because time equals money. It just takes so much time. Try not to spend too much time doing that. Number 6, you can save time prepping the kitchen by having designated spaces for baking items if you haven't already done that, like special drawers and cabinets if you're working from home or a shared space. Having those separated out just makes it a lot faster. You're not looking for stuff. I also like to have specific colored towels for baking and baking cleanup, so I know that everything's good and sanitized and new and all of that. What you can do here is to move off as much from your prime workspace and counter as possible. So don't have anything stacked up there. Don't have cookbooks. Don't have a little turntable thing that you can't move very well. Make sure it's pretty much clear so that you can completely wipe and sanitize 100% real quick without having to move a lot of things. And you can use your wall to hang and store items. So get some shelving, get some just nails in the wall, whatever it is. Your wall can be I think a better, more sanitized, quicker to put away place than having your counter covered and stuff. Okay, you can save time baking by mixing it. This is one that some people haven't thought about before. At least they've told me they've never considered this. This changed the game for me. So mixing in order of least to most, like we mentioned, like least flavorful to most flavorful. If there's no allergen issues or anything, this shouldn't be a huge deal, depending on your recipes. And I want to give you an example. So if I am mixing least to most, let's say I have 3 kinds of cake to make. I have to make vanilla, I have to make vanilla bean, and I have to make chocolate. So I'd always start least to most, and I'd mix vanilla first, then vanilla bean, then chocolate, because my chocolate is basically my vanilla with some other stuff in it, right? So I'm just adding to the recipes as I go forward. There isn't really any kind of contamination happening because it's basically all the same ingredients. There's a vanilla in my chocolate, like vanilla extract. So having vanilla in there is not a problem, right? And now I don't have to wash anything. I can just go from cake to cake to cake to cake because it's least to most. So that's a good thing to do to save you time, dishes, all of that. And same with the icings. If you have vanillas and chocolates, vanilla first, then chocolate, then you don't have to wash it. All right, number 8, ordering multiple pans. This is a big one too, especially if you're just getting started. You don't know if you should invest in this. It has been the best. Pans are not super, super expensive when we talk about the amount of money that you're spending on your business, usually. And you can deduct these, obviously, of your taxes, they're tools. So getting these in line, I think, is a good idea. If you can find out how many pans can fit into the one layer of your oven, if you have a home oven, if you have a commercial oven, you can usually bake on each level, not a problem. But if you're at home, find out how many pans fit on that one rack at a time. For me, I can do 6 6-inch pans. So I got 6 6-inch pans, right? Like I have 6 of those, and I can do 3 or 4 8 inches. So I've got those. I've got 2 quarter sheets, right? You basically want to have enough pans on hand to save you, because that could be hours. Every time you can bake something at the same time as something else, you're saving yourself usually 30 minutes to an hour bake time. So that's gonna pay for itself twofold within the first couple months, right? If you're baking consistently. So make sure to have those on hand. All right, number 9, to save time on decor. That's hard to do, I know, especially when you're getting started. It takes a lot of time. But just making sure you have a reference photo or sketch ready. Don't wait to do that. Don't try to throw stuff together while you're decorating. Draw something out or write some notes or something. It saves you a lot of questioning yourself when you're trying to do it. Make sure you prep the things that you can early, like any hard fondant work, coloring your icing, etc. Maybe do that during the bake time or the cool time the day before, or even just right before you get ready. Maybe when the cake is cooling with the crumb coat. That's good too. Number 10, you can save time on packaging, creating a clean area to photograph and box up items that stays relatively set up. So it doesn't have to be perfect all of the time, but like for me, I'm not going to show you because it looks crazy right now, but for me, it's a foam board with a printed higher quality white marble pattern. And then I also have it on the wall, and I just put those two together. And that's where I photograph cakes, it's where I photograph products, whatever. Keep it very simple over here. Having that basically set up so that when you're ready to take a photo, it doesn't take 30, 40 minutes to set up the area. And then creating a logo and label template in something like Avery that's very accessible. You can go in and print that whenever you need, or have them on hand to apply to the packaging. So it's a really kind of quick commercial process when you're getting everything packaged up. And then something I've loved, which I am not, like an affiliate with them. I think is it Reynolds Wrap? I can't remember the brand right now, but I can share it with you if you need it. I started ordering the like 18 or 20-inch cellophane wraps, right? Like cling wraps, the commercial ones for my house. Changed my life. It's actually sticky. I don't even know what the little things, hate them. I hate those little rolls. Never again. We get one of those for the house and then one for the business, and it'll last you like half a year or something. It's great. So that's the other thing that helps the packaging go a lot faster. And then lastly, to save time on cleaning, this is something, again, some people might not like this idea. I worked in the restaurant industry, so I really enjoy this. And that's kind of like a dirty dish tub. You can just use, it doesn't have to be, it can just be like a Sterilite box or something. But I love that, just to collect all the dirty dishes and take them over to the sink area to wash. So I'm not filling up the sink, I'm just filling up the tub. And then I can wash and wipe down and sanitize the counter right away, so that's all good to go. Whenever you're cleaning your tips, if you don't already do this, put them in, cleaning them out when they haven't been soaked is really hard. It takes a lot of time. So just put them in a jar with some dish soap, like the hottest water you can possibly find in there, and let them, basically dissolve the icing. They're just so easy to clean out. You can even shake the jar and get most of the icing out. It's really nice. So make sure you're doing that too. And I want to mention this only because I think it's like the first thing that you should hire out for, and the least intrusive, is to hire out a dishwasher. So that can be a kid that just stops by for an hour or two every day, or your kid, or an employee. It's just something that gets really super old. Okay. Like it's just so old, and I'm just tired of doing dishes. So maybe hiring out for that, and then using the best cleaning tools and supplies that you can afford. So a good dish soap that actually cuts grease, a good brush that gets into the corners, just making sure you're not spending a lot of like silly time messing with your cleaning process. You want it to be as quick as possible. Okay. Now, overall, considering when we're talking about time management, considering stacking your life tasks on top of each other as much as you can, and removing those transition times. So that's where we waste a lot of time, is transitioning when we should be stacking. Having certain days for certain like tasks built into a repeatable routine that you can actually do every week. Creating a smaller menu that's easier to shop and bake for. Not always possible, but if you have items that aren't selling well, that are kind of outliers, they don't necessarily need to stay on the menu. Making sure that anything you work on is worth it in payment. Up front, if you, I usually say, okay, take retainers if you need to, just because I understand some places don't do well with full payment, but really it's a lot easier just to take full payment up front. It's pretty common in other industries. So if you can, that is going to help you deal with different orders in your days if you have that full payment in hand already, and that it's worth your time. And then remember that every time you book something, this is just a little pep talk on booking orders. I told you how much time it takes. It takes a lot of time. Told you how to save some time, but you're not going to do all those, right? You don't love all those. You're going to have to find the ones that you love. So we know even with all of that, it's still going to take 5 to 8 hours. Remember that every time you book something, you are taking up time that can be used for something else, right? So 1 for 1. If you book a $20 order, and then someone else like the next day is like, hey, can you make me a $300 wedding cake? Shoot, you already took that $20 order. That's already taking up 5 to 8 hours of your time. Probably shouldn't have taken it because it's probably not enough money, right? Like that doesn't count. That doesn't make sense if you're not stacking it with other things. So what's happened is the spot has been taken by a small order, and you'll likely have to skip the big one and lose out on the income because your time has already been called for. So just lastly, know that every time you agree to smaller orders, you're also taking up your time that can be used for yourself or your family, and making sure that it's really worth it to you. And I know some of us think, oh, but I'm not making any sales. I have to take these small orders. I understand. I have been there. I get it. You might do that for a period of time, but once you start getting burnout, once you start realizing you're not breaking even, once you start realizing you're paying to make these people's orders for them because you're not charging enough, that's when you're going to start probably changing your mindset on, but this isn't worth it, right? Like I want the experience and I want to do this, but it's a hobby because I'm not actually making any money. So we gotta change the gears at some point to get you up to that profitable status. You cannot get your time back, but you can always make money later. You can be mentored, you can take classes, you can get to that point. But if you're spending your time on things that aren't worth it, then that's what causes burnout. That's what causes people to want to quit. So I don't want you to be there. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. So I think you guys are just soaking it in. I hope it's not been painful. I just wanted to say that time management is a lot about learning to say no to the tasks that aren't serving you. And you might not even know what those are yet. But when you feel like something's wrong, when you feel like something's not working, it might be time to say no and make room for something else in your business. Now, if you want to chat more about what you feel might be in your way, it's going to be different for everyone. What might be in your way while trying to achieve better time management, make sure to schedule your free 20-minute session with me if you haven't used yours already. Everyone in the group gets one because we want to get to the bottom of where are you at, what's going on, and then making a plan for that better time management, whatever that looks like. And sometimes all it takes is a little brainstorming with someone else who gets it, with someone who's kind of outside of what you're doing, to see how things are rolling and see, oh, that might work, or this might work, or did you try that? And then doors start to open up when you get some outside perspective. So that's what those 20-minute calls are for. You can DM me or comment here with strategy call. If you want to get on, we can talk about what's going on with you and get you hopefully a plan to get into better time management and maybe come up with some kind of routine that would work. Okay, so you can let me know if you need that, and then you can schedule your time with whatever we have available, and then we can chat. Okay. All right, well, I'm not taking any questions coming in, so I hope you guys have a great day. I know that I talked a big game about hiring someone to do your dishes and all that. Well, guess what? I don't do that. And so now I'm off to clean my freaking dishes. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll see y'all next week. I hope you have a great day, and we'll chat later. Bye.